Hi, and welcome to What's the Worst That Could Happen. I'm Abby Whitaker, your host, and today I've got the beautiful thrift queen, Ren, on to discuss all things business. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and all your businesses.
Hello, my love. So nice to be here finally. I think I've had to reschedule like 27 times because life's just chaotic, but good chaos. So I'm Ren. I'm a mum of two little girls. Valley, who is 6 and she is in year 1. And then I have Luca. She is nearly 9 and she's in year 4. And I have spent the past few years single mum lifing and building my businesses. So I have Thrifter. So Thrifter is a pre-love consignment clothing store, or I should say stores now. And they are located in Noosa. So Noosa is our headquarters, and I have Kawana and Brisbane, West End. I also have the Gold Coast in Mermaid Beach, which is my newest store, and I am about to open Melbourne in Brunswick, which is so exciting.
Gosh.
And I'm opening that in April. And so by then I'll have 5 stores. Wow. And I only launched Thrifter just over 12 months ago. So
amazing.
I've just been super passionate in that space. And then also on the flip side, I have Females Doing Cool Shit, which is a podcast and an event space where women can come and network and learn and feel passionate and fuck the fear off in their world around business and just build their best business life, I guess.
Amazing. She moves fast.
I do move fast.
So take me through. So you started Thrifter 12 months ago.
Yeah, just over.
And then Females Doing Cool Shit, you started...
Similar time.
Okay, perfect. So what...
Why have one chaotic business when you can have 2 and just go, let's just survive?
Yeah, so what brought you there?
Well, when we look at Thrifter, what brought me there for years, so my background's in education. Mm-hmm. I was a teacher for over 15 years. I studied at university for over 10 years. I remember graduating my master's degree from QUT in Brisbane, and I did a 4 years master's degree on top of my bachelor. And I wrote a 10,000 word research essay on the impact that a child with an intellectual impairment has on the mainstream classroom and the other kids versus them, etc. And when I finished that, I graduated and I was like, there's got to be more to life when I was a stay-at-home mum. I was like, I'm so passionate about education, but I want to build a side hustle. And at that stage, I don't know if it's changed now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it 18 weeks maternity leave paid?
I don't even know. I think it's 4 months or something. Is that 18 weeks?
Yeah, roughly. So it was only 18 weeks and I was like, I don't want to go back to work yet. This is my last baby. Like, what am I going to do? So I started selling my clothes on Instagram on just my personal page. And at that stage, I think I only had like maybe 2,000 followers. And all the girls from the gym, all the girls in my community, all the teachers, they were like, oh, I'll buy that dress. I'll buy that dress. And I remember making like $1,000 in a day just selling my clothes on my Instagram stories to a small group of women. Mm-hmm. And then it grew. And then I started a local non-for-profit where I started markets in our local hall. Our first market had 7 stalls and it was all of our girlfriends, and we probably had like 30 shoppers, if that. And then that then grew into monthly markets in Coolum. And then I left the non-for-profit and I started my own profit business because I knew it had legs, and that's where I started the Rent-A-Rack system.
Amazing.
And then with Females Doing Cool Shit, I had I wouldn't say a business breakdown because at the time I was running the non-for-profit with a friend. So I would say I had a friendship breakdown. Mm-hmm. And we all know as women, we feel things so deeply. And when we have a friendship breakup, sometimes they can feel worse than an actual breakup with a boy or with men. And then so when that ended, I was like, from my lessons of that friendship, I then knew that there needed to be a space for women in business to find women to connect with, because my old friend, she used to say to me, you're too much, you're too chaotic, you're too obsessed. Why are you so obsessed with your business? There's got to be more. Oh, well, I'm going on holiday for 6 weeks. We'll just press pause on it. And I was like, no, we still, like, it's got legs. It's growing. Mm-hmm. So I ended up doing all the work myself.
Yeah.
And so then hopping out of that really toxic friendship, I was like, I want to meet women who are the same as me and my people. And through females doing cool shit, that's where I met my people.
Amazing. I think it's like, I just want to talk about this a little bit more about partnerships, or like this is obviously, it sounds like a friendship turned business partnership.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's where it kind of like went wrong.
Yeah.
I think that I've been talking about this recently, even at your co-working event the other day. It got brought up about like tall poppy syndrome and how it is quite difficult as business owners to, well, I found this in my journey as well. It's like actually realizing that some people are like great friends, but they're not for like discussing business with, really. Like they just don't get it. They're not interested. It's too much when you try to talk to them about it. And then, you know, obviously then you have to find those people who are. So that breakdown of that partnership, it was essentially a breakdown of a partnership, but also a friendship breakup, which is really hard. So that market that you did, was it Barely Worn?
Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you doing that before Thrifter started?
We did it all through COVID. We did it all, like possibly 2 years. We did that market to build it up. And then, yeah, it just didn't work. And love her from afar. And she still has the market. And whenever we're full, she doesn't know this, but whenever we're full, I'm like, oh, check out Barely Worn. They're on next weekend.
Yeah.
I still pass her details on to sellers who want to sell.
Yeah.
I'm all for her succeeding in the space too. But yes, I think that it's really important when you start a business is to, if you want to start a business with someone else, for me now, never, ever will I ever do it again. Unless there's someone like Tiana or Chris that their minds work like my mind. I just feel like you really need to have that deep discussion and that uncomfortable discussion of, okay, here are my values and morals, what are yours, and do they align? Because if they don't align, it's just not worth it.
It's not going to work. I think like the statistics for partnerships is like, it's like something ridiculous, like 90% of partnerships don't work in business.
Yeah.
And I think when money starts getting involved as well, it can become like really interesting. And I think as well, like a business partnership, like you say, can work if there's transparency right from the start, and also if like each person is like willing to understand the other person. But I think like no matter how good a business partnership is, there always ends up being, well, for me, there always ends up being this feeling that I have to answer to someone else, and I actually just like doing whatever the fuck I want. So
yeah. But even when I look at Em and I working together, and Em and I, we are just so similar, like so opposite but so similar, and we work so well together. But even because I'm so used to doing females doing cool shit events on my own, even doing International Women's Day, although she would trust me 110%, I still feel like I have to say, hey, here's what I've done. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
And waiting for their response purely out of respect and respect for the partnership, etc. And it is the right thing to do. But it is easier when you do things on your own.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone, I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but I was actually talking to them about business partnerships and like how sometimes we go into business partnerships as well because we don't have the confidence like in our own self and our own ability to do it ourselves, which I could definitely relate to if I think back. I mean, I started Inflow on my own, brought in partners, and they've all been amazing. But I think I've had other businesses where I brought in partners just because I didn't have that full confidence or that time or that capacity, and it's just not gone well.
And I think sometimes like you want someone there to, particularly you and I were like born leaders. Like I've got an idea and here's how I'm going to execute it. If you can delegate a task to someone and have that person there, like it makes your life so much easier.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's about hiring staff underneath you that you can do that, right? Like for me, Tiana, like she's my wing woman, but she's my staff member.
Yeah.
And I've got an idea, I want to execute it. Can you help me do that? Rather than having someone who has full ownership over the task as well with you.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you feel like everything has to be fair and like what you're putting, like it can become a bit tricky.
Yeah, a bit
like that.
yucky and uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've got Thrifter, we've got females doing cool shit. We've got podcast events.
Podcast events. And the next thing that I am about to launch in March is the coffee shop.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Exciting.
I'm opening up a coffee shop at the Noosa warehouse, and that's where people can come and sip and thrift. So they can come and get a coffee and then shop, and then nobody knows this yet, but that space will eventually be a jaffle space as well, where people can come and get a toasty.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
So
everyone's
good.
always hungry when they're shopping.
Totally.
The other day I went down with all of our leftover food from the Females Doing Cool Shit event, and I was literally palming it off to all the shoppers, and they were like, we're so hungry, thank you. So that's where that space is moving.
Yeah.
And then eventually with the podcast, hiring out the space so that people can come and hire. And also too, like, I'm all for co-working, and you saw the office, it's huge. Like, if women in business want to come and use the space, I'm going to start looking at that as well.
I love that. I think it's just annoying for me that it's in Noosa.
So far away.
But I think it's such a great idea. And I think with your businesses, how I've always done my businesses is that I started in one business and then I saw a need for something, and then that kind of like ignited the next business. Would you say that that's quite similar to you?
Yeah, I like to find like a problem or a need and then attack that.
Yeah.
And I feel like if there's anybody listening to this who wants to start their own business, find like a need that you need, like a problem that you need to solve. And from there, once you've solved that problem within your business, boom. Like for me, my problems were with Thrifter, it's the monumental amount of like fast fashion that's just being thrown. It's textile waste. So being able to save the clothing and save the planet, while also being able to put money back into our already struggling communities that are still trying to pick up the pieces post-COVID. And then with Females Doing Cool Shit, the problem is that there aren't enough women supporting each other. Everyone's competition over collaboration. Not everyone, but there is a big percentage of people who run their business that way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to attack that and provide space for women to flourish together.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of like finding the problem as well, I know you've spoken to this before, but like you love to thrift.
I'm obsessed.
So like that's also solving a problem for you on a very like surface level, is like thrifting in a really like easy way, but it's also so sustainable. And then same with, I guess, the events, right? It's like you were a woman in business, you were like feeling lonely or didn't have the right people around you. And it's like, okay, well, I need this. This is what I'm going to do. I've done the same thing. I was like, I want to move to the coast. I don't want to work for some place. I'm going to open a Pilates studio, but also because I want to do Pilates. And there's nowhere to do it there. This is 7 years, right? So, and then it's kind of like gone on from there.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with that. Yeah, if it's something that you're passionate about, then you know that it has longevity because it's something that you love.
Yeah.
Like for me right now, my skirt was, I think, $6, and I'm wearing my mum's shirt from maybe like 25 years ago.
So good. I love it.
And even if you can't thrift and you don't have the money to thrift, being able to swap wardrobes and like, you know, you and I could get together, go to our houses, bring over clothing, go, okay, what do you want? Let's swap. All of those little things that can come with that.
Really help, yeah. Okay, so with when we talk about being passionate in a business, I think that one thing that I've kind of faced over the years is like started off super passionate about Pilates, but then realised that I was actually more passionate about leading a business and bringing a business into the area that felt like it was helping people. It was hitting like different like points for me in terms of like feeling fulfilled and that sort of thing. How do you feel about like the line between being passionate about something and working like in your business versus like being passionate about something and working on your business?
I would say that in the early stages of Thrifter, I was working every single day in one of the shops. I was in there, I was hot, I was sweaty, I was slaving away, I was serving customers, I was talking to customers, and I talk a lot about this as like a $10 task versus a $10,000 task, which is working in your business versus working on your business. And I had to make changes within my own mindset, purely my mindset, to go, okay, kind of got to spend money to make money. I'm going to have to hire some staff to do these $10 tasks so that I can work on the $10,000 tasks. I mean, look, haven't actually whipped out a $10,000 task, but you know what I mean? Like when you have time to work on your business flourishes massively rather than you working in your business. So for example, with Pilates, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, when your business opened, you were coaching, you were training, you were in there, you were doing every single class, and then you grew to a place where you didn't have to do that. And I was talking to Jordan, who owns Burlesque L'Amour, and where she shared in the room, I don't know if you were there, it was by the end of the day, but she was sharing that she would work every single day for 6 years, teaching every single dance class, until she got to a place where she was like, hang on, I got to work on the business, not in it.
Yeah, I think it's a really hard transition as well when you do start out that way. For me, the only way I actually moved out of that was I got pregnant.
Yeah. So you're pushed out.
Yeah. and people understood, because sometimes when you start a business, being there every day, especially like I love a small community, but also in a small community there can be expectations. Like I would get things like, why isn't the owner here?
All the time.
Does she not care? Like, and it's like, dude.
All the time. I got it from my parents.
Yeah.
Oh, when we had the factory out there, we were there every single day.
Yeah.
Okay. From staff. Why haven't you been at the shop all week? Well, probably because I'm in the office drowning with 1,000 emails. And because I've got the shops in Brisbane, Gold Coast, soon to be Melbourne, like Gold Coast shop I have been to all of maybe 6 times.
Yeah.
And it's been functioning for nearly 3 months. I can't possibly get there, but that's why we hire people who we would hope would be fit enough to manage the shop, and that you trust them to to work in the business for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's also, like you were saying with the mindset, there's that fine line between sacrificing. Like there's sometimes when I coach clients, business clients, sometimes I talk about this. I'm like, sometimes you have to hire someone and you're not going to have as much money in your pocket for a certain amount of time, and then it's going to like go up, and you're going to have that running smoothly. And I think that sometimes when people first start businesses, that's something that they get really stuck on, because they think they've essentially just opened a business to provide themselves like a normal salary.
To make a wage.
And it's like, well, if you want to like go beyond that, you have to think differently to someone who's working in a business.
Like Georgina said last week, you need to spend money to make money. And it's so true. Like with Tiana, so Tiana started with me 7 months ago. And I know that Instagram following does not mean anything really. Anyone can follow anyone. However, our Instagram grew from 12,000 and when we've now just hit 25,000 followers purely because of her hard work.
Yeah.
She's grown us onto TikTok. When I worked in the Gold Coast shop one of the times, every single person I asked, how'd you hear about us? TikTok, 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 TikTok. I put down like Thrifter success down to her.
Yeah.
Also me, but her.
Yeah.
And
it's having the right people.
when I first hired her, I was like, shit. Sorry, don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this
Swear
podcast.
as much as you want. We swear.
Shit. How am I actually going to pay her wage? Because I'd opened up Noosa Junior. I had to pay all of that rent for that space. And Thrifter Junior was one of my massive learning curves. I hate saying it's a failure, but it was. I'd hired the space. I had to pay her wage. I was like, shit, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
But we made it work.
And it's so easy in that moment to think, I could keep that money. I could just do the tasks myself, probably do them mediocre, but we never think of that because we're like, got our ego, we're like, I could just do the task myself and fit it in and have that money in my pocket and be okay. But like now you're probably like laughing because you're like, I made that sacrifice then. I lived on a little bit less.
Yeah.
And took less profit, whatever. But now you've got someone who is like, I was saying to you before, she's like a fucking unicorn. Like, send me one, please.
Yeah. I think what I would like to get across to people is like, people go to me all the time, oh my God, your business is so successful. Still to this day, all I ever wanted to do was match my teaching wage. I'm still on that. I've still matched my teaching wage. Any extra money goes back into building my business. I don't touch any, like if there's an extra, I don't know, $5,000 from the month across all the stores sitting there, I don't take that and go on a holiday. I use my wage, my baseline teaching wage to pay for that.
Yeah.
So I'm very, I guess I would say I'm very, like I've got a great relationship with my finances and I'm not scared of money. But I definitely have a great way of going, hang on, I actually don't need that money. It needs to go back into the business. Keep putting it back into the business.
Yeah, and it's a smart way to do it because it's like what you're doing is building an empire. Every time you have that money and you're opening another location or you're taking that jump, like you're creating
Well, it's like 40 grand.
sustainable wealth, you know, like
It's $40,000 roughly, and I'd say minimum to open up a shop. Because not only do you have to pay for things like your bond and then your 2-month rent to prove that, you know, you can afford it, you also have to hire staff. You have to do a shop fit out, which might include banging, clanging, ripping things out of walls. You actually have to make it look presentable. You've got to buy all the racks. Racks alone are like $7,000 per shop.
aircon,
Coat hangers,
probably.
aircon, like there's so much that goes into setting up a shop.
There's, fit outs are,
As you would know.
yeah.
Well, you got the Pilates beds, which are like $1 million.
Yeah. But it's like you said, like every single time we've had a little bit of extra money, we have literally opened another studio and just put all of that back in there. And when I say that we live on minimum wage, like we live on minimum wage.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not even replacing a teacher salary or whatever. Like we just like live on a real minimum wage because, you know, we know that long term that's kind of going to like serve us in the best way possible. And I'm really lucky because I have lots of creative ideas just like you. I also can work or use money through the business to like fund my ideas in other business ventures as well.
It's so good. Multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
They're always on about it.
So I feel like I have full financial freedom because I have the freedom to do that.
Yes.
And not because I have the freedom to like, go on holidays and all the rest of that. Although I love doing that as well. But you know what I'm saying. Rambling now. Okay, so tell me about some of the challenges that you've had in your businesses.
Oh, there's been so many. I have had so many challenges. I would say that the best part about I've spent 12 months single, really getting to know myself as a woman, as a mom, as a daughter, and as a business owner.
So can we just like pause there? So you had a relationship?
I was married.
You were married?
Yeah.
And you broke up around the same time that you started Thrifter?
No. So we separated but lived in the same house
Okay.
for ages. Financially, it was just the thing that we had to do. Then I left that relationship, moved out, and then I met someone and that relationship was not great. And then I left him. I left my business partner at the time with the non-for-profit. And that's when I just went, I'm no longer with my partner, no longer doing that. Like so many things changed for me. That's when I started the businesses and that's when I went on this journey of like finding myself, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think one thing about me that is definitely, it has got me to where I am today, but it's also the one thing that gets me into all the challenges would be that I literally have no fear and I'm a yes girl. So if an opportunity arises and I in that moment believe it's good, I'll go for it. I'm so glad I do that, but it also, that's where I face my challenges. So I know that I saw a need for kids' clothing and I was like, I'm going to open up a Thrifter Junior. It's going to be so good. We're going to have a coffee shop. It's going to be play space, all the ideas. I hired the shop next door and it went off for about 2 or 3 months. After that need was met and the hype was over, it just wasn't going off. So that was financially a massive loss for me. And as I said, that's when I hired Tiana. So I had her wage to cover. I had the rent to cover there. I was drowning. It was hard time. That would definitely be a challenge for me. But lucky with that lease, it was a break lease. So I signed someone else's last 6 months of their lease.
Great.
So I was trying all different ways. I started a hire business online for dresses. We made a whole website, poured, hundreds of dollars into the website. My brother launched the website for me, spent all this money on dresses to hire out.
Yeah.
In a period of 2 weeks, we had no hires. And I was like, okay, maybe the need isn't actually that big. So not only did I have Tiana's wage, the Thrifter Junior rent, I started this hire business, poured all this money into buying the dresses. And it wasn't until I spoke to Lisa, who owns the Only Dress Hire, who she sells across all of our stores, all of our rentals. She said to me, the thing with having a hire business that people don't understand is, brands will release their dresses and then the second someone has, like some influencer has a photo in it, everyone wants that dress, like the Benny dress, for example. And then as soon as they release a new one, those dresses, they don't exist. People don't want them. They're not relevant. So you may get 2 people hire them within that time frame and it may pay half the dress and then no one wants it anymore because it's not relevant. So it's a risk. It's a high risk business to get into, dress hiring. And the reason I did it was because I wanted to promote sustainable fashion and that we can reuse, rewear, all of that. Just didn't go off. So I had all 3 elements: wanting money, draining me financially. And yeah, I would say that would be one of my biggest challenges, was getting a new staff member at the same time that I hired the venue plus open the dress hire.
Yeah. And then kind of having to deal with, like you said, like, let's just not be afraid of the word, I guess. It's like they failed. So dealing with that as well, did you find that was hard on your ego, or were you kind of like, okay, move on?
Nah, I feel like I've done so many things in my life that haven't worked, or things that I've seen as, like, I used to run a Soul Sisters run club where women flocked. Like, we'd have run groups of like 40 plus girls. And that was for about a year that those numbers, they were sustained. And then it just dropped off massively. And I learnt a lot in that of, okay, there were girls that were in our run club for a whole year and now they don't come at all. Is it something that I did? Is it who I am? Do they not want to know me anymore? They're not replying to my messages about running anymore. They're not even running anymore. Why don't they like it anymore? I learnt a lot about my ego then. And I learnt a lot about the fact that it's actually not about me. I'm not the main character in everyone's life.
Yeah, I love that.
Thrifter Junior isn't the main character in everyone's life. The dress hire isn't the main character in everyone's life. And that's okay. People have a lot of stuff going on. So I think when I learnt that lesson back then in the run club with business, I'm like, okay, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Where to next?
Yeah.
It's kind of a good place to be in because it's exciting of, what did I learn? Where can I take those lessons next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that a lot in the studios. Like, sometimes the managing partners, like, because they're dealing with all the people, like cancellations, seeing people that they know or like friends or whatever go to other studios and stuff, and like they'll be like, like it'll kind of be like, oh, well, have I done something wrong or whatever? And I've been there, done that, like had that moment, and I'm just like, nah, people just like new shiny things. Like, they'll go try and they'll come back if it's not, what they thought it was or whatever. Like, it's fine. It's not personal. I say that so much. It's not personal.
It's definitely not. And people's lives change. It can come down to their financial needs. It can come down to their location. So 2 things that have really helped me, William Glasser, he's a theorist and he talks a lot on choice theory. Okay. So the school that I used to teach at, they are choice theory based, and I did a lot of study over my 10 years of working there. And basically, like, this is super basic, but he believes that you cannot change the way that people act. You can only change the way that you react.
Yeah, love it.
So that's something that I live by now, because we can't change the way that people act and the choices that they make in their everyday life. We just have to change the way that we react. And when you can learn the strategies to do that, life becomes easier. And also to the Let Them book by Mel Robbins.
So good.
Massive slay. Changed my life. I only just recently read it at the start of this year, and it's so simple yet so effective. Let them, and now let me. What am I going to do? And it's based on that same like historical data of William Glasser. Like, he's old. I don't even know if he's still alive, actually. Got to look into that. But his theory is basically the same as the Let Them.
Yeah, I love it. I think it just like, I just got a little flashback back to like my mum when I was like 16, and, you know, you have the sex talk. And I remember her saying, like, because I had some friends, like friends who were really strict and like, cool, like I'm not anything against that. But mum was kind of like, obviously I had a long-term boyfriend when I was 16, and we weren't allowed to sleep in the same room or anything. But like mum was also like, if you're going to like, she had this talk with me and she talked about protection and the pill and all of this stuff. And she's like, well, if you're going to be sleeping with your boyfriend, like, you're either going to do it here in a safe place, like under a safe roof,
Or at the park.
or you're going to do it at the park,
The
in the
local
bush.
park.
Like, she's like, you're not going to like not do it because I'm saying that you can't be alone in your room together, you know? And I was like, it always sort of stuck with me. It's like, it's actually true. It's even like with relationships, you know, I had a really long-term, very fucking toxic relationship to the point where I would like always go out and stuff to like watch him and make sure he wasn't cheating on me and blah, 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 blah. And like at the end of the day, when I reflect on that, I'm like, even though I did all of that, he still cheated on me so many times because he was going to do it anyway.
And that's his behavior.
Exactly.
We cannot change the way that people act. But what you can do is you can put the power and the ownership back onto you and go, okay, I had 2 extremely toxic relationships. My ex-husband, my first boyfriend of 14 years, both cheated on me so many times I lost count. But I just stayed in that cycle. And then that's when I met the third man after my marriage ended. And I was like, maybe this will be it. But no, I was just continuously trying to save broken men until I worked on myself and worked in that space. And I think, I don't know, really good things can come when you start to look at other people's behaviours, your behaviours, and analysing it and going, hang on, I can change the way that I react to other people's behaviours. I don't need to accept this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just all comes back to that. Yeah, kind of like those theories that you're talking about is like, let them. Just like, if that's what they're going to do, that's what they're going to do. There's no...
Like, I've gone into my next relationship. This is off topic from business, but
I love it.
I've just moved in with my boyfriend. Adore him, love him. I feel like he's the man I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Our relationship is so healthy, it scares the absolute shit out of me because he is just so everything that all of my past partners were never. Like, I don't know, there's no lock on his phone. His phone's there. He'll go on his phone in front of me. I'm like, I don't need to see your screen. He's like, what? What are you talking about? Like, all those little everyday things, like me freaking out that he's going to get in his car and drive off and be gone for 2 hours and he'll be sleeping with someone down at the local car park, like all my exes did to me. Like, it's so funny, but on the other hand, I need to remember that his behaviour is his behaviour. If he chooses to act differently, then that's on him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, like, people have come here for business advice, but they're going to get some relationship, some hard truths about this.
We're no expert, but we have experience.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like with my husband now, I've been with him for like 9 years. That's wild. But after that, like, really toxic relationship I had, when I first started dating him, I was kind of like not wanting him to go out, not wanting him to like spend any time, like kind of like questioning him sometimes, and he was like literally so open and stuff, but also just like so innocent. And I remember he said to me, if you keep accusing me or like making it out like I'm a bad person, that I'm cheating on you, I probably will end up doing that because like you don't believe me anyway, so I might as well just do the thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck.
Subconscious, like.
Yeah. And he's like, you're literally painting me out and assuming I'm a bad person.
When I'm really not.
When I'm not. And so it's like, well, why should I just be a good person if you're just going to think that anyway? And I was like, it was just such a like a drop in my mind of like, wow, you have to trust him.
But trust is hard, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, a business partnership. When you're at our age and you've experienced broken trust, it's really hard to find trust in people, particularly new people. Like I said to Chris, and I went on our morning walk this morning together, and I had a couple of DMs about, I want to work with you, I want to work with you, I want to work with you. And I said to him, like, I said no for all of them. And he said, why? And I just said, because I don't know them, I don't trust them. But when it comes to obviously the people that I do trust, it's a hard yes. And he's like, well, just give them a chance. No, it's so hard when you get to our age and you've experienced all of that. I don't know. It's just.
It is. It's like, it's such a balancing act as well, because what I found is like, I'm a very trusting person and I've been burnt a few times, but then I also don't want to.
In business or in life?
In both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a very like generous person in business particularly. And yeah, I've been burnt a few times, but then it's like you don't really want to like lose who you are as a person, but then also sometimes you just have to be a bit smarter, you know?
I feel like you can still move with like love and kindness, but it's about having boundaries and having a fucking spine, as Alexa says, like have a spine, have a backbone and be able to stand up for yourself. Because, for example, I had hired a staff member in the early days of Thrifter and she was doing the pays for my staff. Little did I know that she was pocketing a couple of $1,000s to herself when she would do these pays fortnightly. And I didn't know because I trusted her.
Yeah.
I trusted her wholeheartedly. And she gave me no reason until I found out about that, no reason to think otherwise. And that scares the shit out of me because.
Yeah. But really, was that her fault or was it your fault?
My fault, 100%.
Yeah, right.
Because I just let her take ownership.
Yeah.
I let go.
Yeah.
So when we go back to looking at working in the business or on the business, a part of that like financial knowledge is knowing, okay, I actually need to be approving the pays on Xero, not a staff member that has been working for me for 2 months.
Yes, absolutely.
I need to be looking at every single payment that's going in and out and knowing exactly why they're there and who sent them.
Yeah.
Or who is getting paid.
Absolutely. I think it's like important as a business owner to take responsibility over all areas. I know business owners who have gone broke because like their husband or their ex-husband or whatever was like not paying super or like doing this or like putting money here. And it's like, well, why the fuck weren't you looking at it?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a friend recently and they were confused about some of their accounting bills and stuff. And I was like, well, are you on a retain? Like, what are you actually paying for? Like, what is your retainer? What are you paying for? I don't know. I was like, well, I'm sorry. Like, this is actually your fault.
Yeah.
Like, you need to know what you're paying. And I think that that's important in every element. It's like, yes, we need to be able to step away and like delegate tasks, but we need to understand stuff first.
Yeah.
Like understand your accounting and then delegate it. Understand your marketing, your this, that, and then delegate it, right?
Yeah. Well, like Georgina was talking about her staff and how she hires her staff, I said to her, do you like interview every single staff member? Because like this bad bitch has like 7 cafes. Like how do you get around to them all and hire and fire and do all the things? And she's like, I do it. That's my job. That's my responsibility. I'm the business owner. And that scares me because I have girls working at some of my locations purely because of distance, but no excuse, get in the car. I should know all of my staff and I should know their strengths and weaknesses. And that's something that I'm going to work on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's I think for me, when I haven't listened to my gut, and the only way you can listen to your gut in those like hiring situations is when you go and you're there in front of the person.
Yeah.
And I think as leaders, like, it's something that we're probably like quite naturally good at,
Yeah.
right? But every time I've been like, I'm not sure, but like I feel bad, I want to give them a chance or whatever. No, backfired.
100% all the time. And I look at some of mine, like I hired a friend who I had working at one of my stores, and some days she just wouldn't even rock up to work.
And
I'd have sellers sending DMs into the Instagram, hey, I'm at the front of Thrifter. It's 9:08 and the lights aren't on. Who does that fall back on? Me? Like, you just need to make sure that you're hiring people for the right reason.
Yeah, totally.
That's a whole avenue that I'm working on.
Well, what's the hardest part of business?
Your staff.
Exactly. It's just, you would say that.
Literally.
It literally is. It's like managing so many different personalities, expectations, priorities, value sets, you know?
And also too, the impact that their personal life has on their job. I think that we always need to remember that, because you can have staff who are running your shops for you and they are performing at this high peak level. Some little thing can change in their life and boom, they're coming to work, they're on their phone all the time. They've got their laptop open because they're looking for something. Like they're over it, they're disengaged, they've got other things that are the main priority in their life. And it's hard to sit down and have those uncomfortable conversations too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's part of our job as leaders as well to be able to like see what motivates our staff and like see like what they need. Like we'll often with our instructors be like, what are you needing? Like, are you wanting more classes? Are you wanting to work across the different studios? Like how, like, can we also make sure that we're like meeting your needs, because we don't want to lose you. And sometimes I think that can just be overseen. Like I've been in jobs where I just felt like I was that staff member who was like doing great, and then I'm just like bored, and I'm like, you're not giving me any opportunities, you're not
to grow,
giving me any autonomy, like you're micromanaging me, like I'm just going to rebel against that.
Yeah. I definitely see that with a lot of my staff. I really try with my store managers, so all my full-time girls, I have monthly incentives. So that's just a cash bonus, and that's whether their shops are full or I don't know how they're performing or feedback based and things like that. And Brooke actually encouraged me to do that. That's something there. And I've also created little new job roles within their job to give them some ownership. So I've got like market manager, where we do our pop-up thrift fest, where a staff member will take ownership over that and work on those, admin hours, etc. But it's definitely so true. And also too, like performance reviews. I've never done a performance review. Like I'm education. I've worked for the government my entire life. Knowing that that's even a thing blows my mind.
Yeah. Because people want like, it's like the love languages, like they want like M, for example, which is our mutual friend.
Yeah.
She does like, obviously she does some EA stuff for me. I've realised that she really loves words of affirmation. Like she needs to be told that she's doing a good job and stuff, like to feel good.
Yeah.
Right? And then like other people kind of like really like a bunch of flowers.
Yeah.
Like, gifts,
Yeah. Gift giving. I love languages.
Of course, I've got some staff members who might really just like really want to just like go out to lunch and just have a conversation, not about work. And it's like, okay, well, they really like quality time, so it's like really kind of
figuring out what they deem as
them.
Yeah. And often I'll just send a bunch of flowers to my staff in all the shops and say, thank you for like everything that you do. Or yeah.
And that little gesture goes a long way.
Yeah. Even we have a group chat on WhatsApp and I'll put in there at the start of like a rack release, because I know we get absolutely pumped. I think we did like $35,000 across the shops this month in 5 hours. So I'll send out a message like, we've got this, like just full words of affirmation. You guys are amazing. Remember, we're doing this for the community, all of that. The reaction that I get from staff just from that is like, thanks, Mum. We know you've got my back, like our backs and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yeah. We also like screenshot reviews.
Yes.
And especially if it's like got someone's name in it.
Yeah, so nice.
And then you put it into the group chat and then it's like they're getting acknowledged in front of the whole group.
Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah.
Okay, so with businesses, so you've like really launched quite hard in the last 12 months. Females doing cool shit. You have mentioned a little bit on social media that you're kind of changing the direction there in terms of the events.
Yes.
How can you share with us what you're
Yeah,
doing?
for sure. So obviously I've taken Tiana on as a co-host because we're just better together. And our vibe is our energies together is a lot and it's fun and it's vibrant. So that was just like a no-brainer. And then when we talk about events, I want our events to be a place where women can come and ask all the silly or what's deemed as silly or stupid questions when it comes to business, and a place like a learning hub, a place where we can go to learn about business, which is why I had Brooke on talking about finances and budgets and taxes and all of that stuff. I just think that there really is, unless you're signing up to a uni degree to do business, there isn't like a hub where women can get together and go, okay, here's what I learned.
They don't even teach you that at uni. I did a business degree.
See?
Never used any of it.
Blows
Had to
my
just
mind.
figure out my own way.
Blows my mind. Like even when we do have our networking events, we always talk about business, but the things that I've learnt from other women through their experiences and their stories is far more impactful than anything I research on the internet. So I would love our events to be a place where people can come and learn. And then on the flip side of that, I'd love to do like live podcast events and do things where women get together and we just simply socialize, because so much of our life is all about our business. I'd love to do like brunch vibes and more events like that.
I love that as well, because it's like, for me, I love going to events, but I also love going deep with people and I love talking about business, right? So I love like mixing socializing with business chats. I feel like that's how I built my community on the coast, because I just like love talking to people. That's why I have this podcast. And it's like that's why I love coming to your co-working event days as well, because I haven't had the opportunity to come to any of your bigger events. But I think for me it's like so much more in my wheelhouse, because the smaller like co-working events, because you do just like meet amazing people, and maybe you're just talking about like when your baby's due or other different stuff, but a lot of the time it's like you can talk about stuff with business, or like how it's really hard when your husband's your business partner, or like just things
you
that
can relate.
Like, you can relate, and it's like it's really nice. And then even like the aftermath of that, of like the people on your social media and stuff, it's like all of a sudden you have all these amazing people like cheering you on and like understanding you a bit better. And
and that's what it should be about, because it's a vicious world out there for women in business. And also too, not only that, I think like it's like for female CEOs, I think it's like 0.2% female CEOs actually build like purely successful, financially successful businesses, which is wild statistics. Correct me, I believe that's it. I heard it on a podcast, but it could be different. But I want to create a space where women can go there and just feel like their business will succeed. Building a successful business, that's what we all want. We don't get into business to build a flop.
No, of course not.
Yeah, we want it to succeed. And if we have the right people around us, that's where you're more likely to succeed. They say, you would have heard, you're like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So who is around you? Check who's around you. Are they people that are pushing you, supporting you, loving you in all forms, with and without your business? Then if so, tick. If they're not, reassess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want everyone to come to a Females Doing Cool Shit event and be like, today I left with a new cheerleader. Today I left with somebody who's going to teach me something outside. Even today I left with a new client. So many girls come to the events and they'll message me privately and just say, I just want to let you know, like coming and paying $39 to come to that event in turn gave me like a $400 design job with a client.
Yeah.
So thank you. It paid for itself.
I've definitely like hired people through your events.
Yeah.
And also been hired through your events.
Yeah, that's so good.
And this is something I love about you is like all of your businesses, like you're very like honest and clear about like it's about making money. And this is something I feel like females shy away from particularly is like, oh, I just want to help people and stuff. No, we're not doing it just for shits and gigs. Like we do need to like, it needs to be sustainable financially. But the thing I also love is that you make everything that you do very obtainable. You know, like your co-working days are very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
Your like thrift is like very achievable. Yeah, and I really like that.
I do like, I thank you. I'd like pride myself on being able to support everyone. And also too, I think with Thrifter, even if you don't sell there, you know that, well, I know that there's a family out there that's shopping there and getting an outfit for $10. That's awesome. And I just don't think yes, I need money to make the business run, but I don't need to be like a multi-millionaire. That's not my life goal. I'd like to have enough money to live, but I say this in like a non-egotistical way, but I come from generational wealth. So I know that I'm like well looked after within my family. I don't do them to have this raging bank account, but I do them, one, to support people, but also to see, like I thrive off knowing that people get business from females doing cool shit. I thrive when I see that somebody's made like a new best friend, they're going out for coffee from one of my events. I get more from that than me even getting my own business connections from the events. I don't know, there's something about it that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy.
I love, actually just reminded me of the story you told about Ronald.
Yes.
Ronald, and how you really want to start sharing stories about people who are selling on their thrifter racks. And like, I mean, even like I'm going to get you to expand a little bit on that in a second, but I just want to tell you a story about my thrifter rack I had last month. So I had my thrifter rack, there was like stuff left over. I put on my stories like, you know, I think I sold like 40 things or something ridiculous. And I had some stuff left over and I was like, right, I'm going to drop it to the op shops. The thing with the op shops is like, I love them. They're always full.
All full. They actually put up signs like, do not want drop anything else.
Yeah. And I actually had this last year because I had a bunch of clothes before Thrifter was around. I had a huge amount of clothes, baby clothes, all size 6 to size 12 sort of clothes. I called around to all of the DV houses, the op shops. None of them would take it. And I was like, this just feels so sad. I ended up sending a bunch of it over to Fiji with my in-laws and they were able to give it to some people there, which felt really good. But when I put that story up on my Instagram, I had someone reach out. She was like, my daughter has just lost, she's a single mum, she's just lost all of her clothes in the flood, like a flash flood. And like, maybe could I have your clothes? And I was like, yes. Like, that makes me feel so good that they're going somewhere that I just know that they're going to be used and loved and they're needed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also about, just giving back to people too, because it definitely comes back. I know that for me on my personal Instagram, whenever I have something that's of the girls, I put up a story and I'll say, message me if you're a mum in need and you want this. So when I upgraded the girls' iPads, I gave away their 2 iPads to a single mum of twin boys, and they still have the iPads today. And when after she picked them up, took them home, she sent me a little video of the boys saying like, thank you so much, Renee, blah, blah, blah. They were in prep. It was an iPad school. They started to take them to school with them. And when I got the girls' new beds, I just gave away the bunk bed to a mum in need, or their dollhouse, or anything. You would actually be surprised with how many people out there are truly struggling. And if you do have the capacity to, like if you're not struggling and you have the capacity to re-gift, rehome anything that's in your house, definitely do it. Even community boards now, I see people like, I was homeless for 10 years. I've only just got my first house. If anyone has an old microwave they can give me, like, much prefer to do that.
Yeah. And it's actually, do you know what? It's really beautiful when you do see those posts, because I've seen like ones where it's like, oh, me and my daughter don't have, like, something happened, or I don't have food this week. And they're not asking for like friggin' lobster. They're asking for some 2-minute noodles, and the amount of people who are just like, I've got extra of that, I'll drop it off.
So like, willing to help.
Yeah. And it's really nice to see that.
On the weekend, we held a cooler market and we had donations at the end. So bags and bags. And one of our ex-sellers has just started her own charity working with women and children in DV situations. And I rang her the day of the market and said, hey, just letting you know, I've got all of these donations if you want them for your charity. Straight away, she was there that day. And we know that all of the clothing is going to people in need.
Yeah,
which is
really
awesome.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, so one thing that you shared, now that we're just skipping back, that you'd really like to start sharing the stories of people who are selling on their Thrifter app. Can you just quickly share the story about Ronald?
Of course. So one thing about Thrifter is that we get to know our sellers. So we hear stories through their clothing, and we would be the same. Like, everybody has a memory attached to an outfit, or like right now I'm wearing my mum's shirt from 30 years ago. So everybody has a story connected to their clothing, whether it's related to like a holiday or an event. And we had this guy come and set up. I actually was like, oh, Ronald, that's an interesting name of like a rack hirer. Maybe it's someone using a fake name, because sometimes people that work in businesses and they get like cheaper clothing, they'll put it under a fake name so that they have the right to sell that. I mean, they purchase it anyway, but they can't go and sell their brand, etc. So Ronald rocks up. My brother's working. Ronald rocks up. He's an 80-year-old man. He walks over. Milan's like, how can I help you? Carrying his things, blah, blah, blah. Setting up the rack. This 80-year-old man is setting up his late wife's wardrobe for sale. And he is going through piece by piece, explaining to my brother, who is an empath. So Milan's like taking all this on, and he got home and was like, oh my gosh, guess what happened today? And piece by piece, explaining to my brother Milan every single memory that he had with his wife. Oh, she wore this on a holiday to here. She wore this when it was our, 40-year wedding anniversary. Set up the rack, and then we noticed later that on the tags he has RNK and then their last name. So he still has their initials, I should say, on the tag. And he pops in all the time, and now all the staff just love him. And so Tiana and I, we noticed that on open day he only had a few sales. We went down and purchased from him, and now our whole staff have made a pact that by the end of the month they would have all bought something. I think he's made something like $400 now, probably from the staff just buying his stuff. But like, thrift is a part of his grieving process right now. Like, he is grieving his wife. And the fact that he's doing that at Thrifter with our full support gives me goosies and makes me like, but even not just Ronald, we get emails on the daily from women like, the money I made from the rack gave me enough money to leave my ex-husband and leave a DV situation, and was able to provide me with 2 weeks in a motel where I was able to plan the next steps in my life. Thank you. Or, often we have a $2 rack and, your $2 rack, I was able to dress my entire family, or I was able to find my wedding dress there. I was able to find my 21st dress there. There's just, I don't know, there's so many stories with our sellers, and I just think that we're a community and we should all be supporting each other, and sharing their stories hopefully would encourage other people, I don't know, to share their stories with their...
Or just to know that it's a safe place to be able to do that and be able to share, and that they're not alone, and that it's not just a place for like fancy people with lots of money.
Yeah. One of our sellers, she had a wild operation, and she messaged me when she came out of recovery like 3 months after, because she was a consistent seller. And she said, I've missed it so much. I'm coming back. And she's back this month and we've just all missed her so much. But she knows that like we're her thrift fam. That's why we call it a thrift fam, so that everyone's family and looks after each other. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Okay, to finish up today, I'd love for you to give us 3 tips that you would give to anyone who is thinking about a side hustle, a business. You love to specialize in women, so feel free to face it that way.
So my first thing would be that if you're feeling afraid, embrace that feeling and use it as fuel. Because on the other side of fear is greatness. I was slaving away as a school teacher. I was losing hair. I was losing sleep. I was so unhappy. I loved my job, but I was deeply, deeply unhappy. And I was too scared to start my own business because I didn't back myself. But I didn't sit in that for too long. I used that fear to fuel me, and that's what's got me to where I am today. I have no fear. I'm like, okay. So that's one. So embrace that feeling and use it to fuel you. Number 2 would be get the right supportive network around you. Meet people who are like-minded, reach out to other business owners, ask the silly questions to people that you trust in business and have those people around you, because with the right support, that's where you'll blossom within business. So fear, support, and I would say choose something that you're passionate about because brands build stories and stories build brands. And I could go on about that for a whole podcast episode in itself. And if you have a passionate story behind what you do and like you truly believe in what you do, then your like clientele, your customers will believe in it too because it comes from a good place.
Yeah, I love that. I love all those great tips.
Yeah, that's mine.
Okay, before we finish up, is there anything that we haven't spoken about today that you would like to speak about?
I think for any of the listeners, like if you're feeling afraid of coming to like a women in business networking event, I'm assuming most of your listeners might be women, but could be men too. But if you are a female in business and you're looking to connect, definitely come to one of our events. It's $39. It's a co-working event. You can come. You don't have to own your own business. If you have ideas and you want to come and run it by all the other women in the room, come, safe place. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it.
That's it.
Awesome. Thanks you so much for your time.
We could sit here and chat all day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.